Hello, Calaveras County. It's Morgan Gache with the Chamber of Commerce. And I'm coming to you this morning, Friday, April 3, with the Public Information Officer of the SBA, Garth McDonald. Garth, welcome.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good to be here.
Yeah. Sorry, we're getting used to this whole Zoom thing here, but thank you so much for joining us. Obviously SBA is a hot topic right now, and I was talking to Carrie the other day about this, and I said, you guys have probably never had as much attention as you're having right now. So I'm thrilled to have you on, and specifically what you and I dialogued about was sharing more information about the EIDL loans. And we've, today launches the PPP, and I know that Carrie is going to be giving me, a detailed plan of that on Monday. And so, if you find something that's relevant that we should know about today, that would be great. But I wanted to focus in on the EIDL loans specifically today, and really just the resources of where we should be pointing people to, because you are the subject matter expert because you deal with this all day long. And most of the business owners that I'm talking to feel like deer caught in the headlights. It's so overwhelming trying to understand what they should be looking at, what they should be applying for, whether they qualify, and a string of other questions. So I'd love to have you take it away and maybe show us a couple of things and talk to us about the EIDL loans.
I'm happy to do that. And one thing I will do, and I'll try to avoid this because as a federal government employee, we fall into this trap all the time. We speak in acronyms, and a lot of people don't know what acronyms are. So one thing to mention is the reason we're talking about the assistance to your small business members and basically entire nation in a sense, because every state in the nation, all territories, all counties, all parishes throughout the United States and its territories are declared for this federal disaster due to the coronavirus pandemic outbreak. And what that means is for the Office of Disaster Assistance within the Small Business Administration, which I work for, we have one aspect of our disaster loan program available to small businesses and most private nonprofits, and that's called the Economic Injury Disaster Loan Program. As you mentioned, the EIDL program, or EIDL. That is an Economic Injury Disaster Loan. It's a program that we offer when there are regular natural disasters, and I've worked up in Calaveras County because of some of the fires, the Butte Fire and things like that. So I've been into your areas there and saw the communities impacted by those terrible fires. On this disaster, I think one key thing to mention is that there is a provision that was passed and signed by the president and the administration, and that was basically made part of this new CARES Act, which is the coronavirus stimulus bill that everyone's heard about. It made some additional funds available in our economic injury loan program called the EIDL Advance. What that does is that can give a small business owner up to $10,000 of advance funds that they don't have to pay back. And it's dependent on how many employees they have. And so that was an extra new provision. And we've also done some amazing things to streamline the process of applying for these economic injury loans, the advance and the loan program. I'll go over a little bit about the loan program, but what I want people to know, number one, is how do I get this help? That's the key thing. Mm-hmm. We're here from the SBA. Most people have heard of the Small Business Administration. Most people that aren't ever hit by a disaster and until this pandemic kind of know what the SBA does. It helps businesses grow and start up with SBA programs through banks. But this economic injury disaster loan and the Office of Disaster Assistance programs for SBA, whenever there's a disaster, they're direct loans from the federal government, low interest loans with very favorable terms and payments to help people get rebuilt from disasters. In this case, one aspect of our program, the Economic Injury Funds, is made available because of the pandemic. And so this is cash flow money, working capital funds to pay rent, pay mortgage, pay leasehold improvement expenses, buy inventory, things that the business can't do because the business has been impacted by this pandemic. So it's basically cash flow, money in their hands to write checks for bills that they need to pay, and maybe even pay their employees. So that's the Economic Injury Loan Program in a nutshell. And part of it is forgivable, which is fantastic on this particular situation. So the first thing somebody should do that say, this sounds great, I need money because my business is closed or not operating or barely operating, you should go on your website. I have a Google screen up, and somebody should just type in sba.gov and /coronavirus, and that will take them to a link. The very first link that comes up, you'll see is sba.gov page coronavirus, and somebody can click on that, and boom, the browser comes up with all the information they need. And one thing that it does do is it shows you on this landing page, there's SBA guides and loan resources and so forth. And so you can go and you can either look up here at the top screen and say, click here for relief options, or you can go right down here and look at this and say funding options, and you can click right there. You make that first click and it takes you to one more page, and then it says click here to learn more about relief options, learn more. There's all kinds of links that are basically going to take them to the information so they can apply. And so I'm just going to click. There's multiple click links I can go to. I'm going to go to this one in the center, click here, and then it takes people to funding options. And here's the main landing page, and it talks about the $10,000 advance right here on the right, the EIDL loan advance. That's also the same link for that and the loan program. And then over here, the newly announced Paycheck Protection Program. You mentioned PPP. This is part of the new act signed by the president. And this is a part of SBA that will do big loans that are forgivable loans. As you can see, this loan program, if you read this one sentence, this loan program provides loan forgiveness for retaining employees, and it's part of the regular SBA through banks program. That's launching today. So many of your businesses might want to apply for both of these. And so because you're going to go through the PPP, the Paycheck Protection Program with Carrie, I'm going to focus, like you mentioned, on the EIDL program, which is right over here. So if you want to click on the EIDL loan advance, it's very simple. After 2 clicks, you're looking at an overview, eligibility. There's information it'll tell you here, but here's the main screen you want to go to right here. It says to apply for this loan and the loan advance. So the next step is you click one more time and you're in the application, okay? And the application is streamlined. It's basically, see these check boxes here? The check box is what type of business do you have? How many employees? It's 4 screens like this. And I can't do it because I would be applying, but any of your business owners should go right here, and they should just, it's 4 different pages. It'll take them 15 minutes, and they will then have submitted their application to be looked at for this advance and extra money for working capital funds, however long they may need it to get through this recovery period. Yeah. So one aspect of this program is we look at what the business was doing before this pandemic outbreak took place. So if they were paying their bills,
I think I lost you there.
I'm sorry. So
there we go.
Yeah, sorry about that. I hit
okay.
a button. One thing is if somebody applies for this, we look at what they were doing before the disaster hit, whether they had enough room to take on some payments for some small loan or a big loan up to $2 million. And so by completing this application, they're going to be considered for our EIDL loan program. And so there's no need for them to know how much they want to apply for. We'll help them figure out their needs. We'll help them get the cash flow dispersed to them. They can only take what they want. They don't have to take any if they decide, even though they're approved. It's kind of like an emergency credit line. And the terms are very favorable. The interest rate for a small business is 3.75%. For a nonprofit, it's 2.75%. These are fixed rates with a 30-year term. There's no payment due for the first 12 months. Until the 12th month of the note date, they don't have to make a payment. The payment can fit within their budget, what their business can afford, and these funds are to pay the bills that they need to pay. And they can they can ask for more if they find the recovery period goes longer than we all expect and they need additional funds. It's up to $2 million. We're going to initially look at trying to get people 6 months worth of working capital funds to them as the first approval. And we're going to work with them as they go forward. So after going through this application, four click pages and some questions that they'll be asked are: when was your business formed? What was your approximate revenue for last year? What do you expect your revenue to be the next period of time? Who are the owners? Where's the address? What do you do in your business? Some basic things, how many employees you have, and that stuff. Most everything they can answer off the top of their head. And once they submit that, we're going to be working on these as soon as they come in, first come, first serve. Obviously, we're getting a lot of applications. We're ramping up our staff throughout the nation. Like, for example, a couple of years ago when the nation got hit by Harvey, Irma, and Marie, we hired thousands of reservist loan officers. And we're doing that again. We have wave after wave of new customer service representatives that were either reservists or they're new to our agency. Same thing with loan officers. Many bank employees may be applying for temporary work with us. And that's why I mentioned earlier that usajobs.com. So we expect to try to get these funds out. Our goal is to get it out now. We've already got money in people's hands. We're approving loans every day and throughout the nation. But don't wait. My key message is to your small business owner and your members: don't think about it. Just put it in the application. You don't have to take the money.
Yeah. You know, I have a string of questions that I have for you, but what you were just saying, don't wait. I had a conversation with someone yesterday about it, and there's just hesitancy. And I understand that, because people are feeling like, you know what, I don't need it. I don't want to have to pay it back. And there's a fear, because that word loan is in there, that something's going to come up and they're still going to, be responsible for it and have to pay for it. And so,
but one thing, I will interrupt you for a second.
Yeah.
You can't have to pay back something you didn't take. So even if they're approved and we say we can give you $500,000 over the next 6 months, if they don't take any money, they don't owe anything. There's no prepayment penalty. There's no obligation to take the money. This application, 4 pages of basic information, will of course be in our system on our files, but they won't have to do anything if they don't take the money.
That's so important. I love that you just said that, because it's basically providing an option just in case you need it, but going through the process of applying for it leaves that capability there in case you get to a point. You don't, great, don't need it, just pay it off, no big deal. But if you do, on the other hand, then that potentially saves you from going under. So that's great.
Yes, somebody might say, okay, I need $2,000 today to pay my mortgage or my rent or whatever on the business, the lease or whatever it might be. And they say, just send me $2,000. I know I'm approved for $25,000 or $100,000 or whatever. send me 2,000. That's all they owe. And we can loan up to $25,000 before we're even going to look for any collateral on the loan. So it's a signature loan if they took 25,000 or less. And so most people that deal with banks and businesses know what that means.
Yeah.
There's no collateral. And as special provisions, because this thing is so large, we're not taking any real estate as collateral on these loans for the EIDL program. So even though a sole proprietor might say, well, if I get any money from them, I'm going to have to put a lien on my house, another lien behind my mortgage or whatever. That's not true in this case. Because of special provisions approved by the administration and our headquarters, we're not taking real estate. If they do borrow over 25,000, we're going to look for the business chattel. It's called chattel, but it's the property of the business. We might file what's called a UCC form as collateral. That's only if they borrow more than 25,000. And so, in some cases, we want people to not spend every dime they have in their retirement, not put things on credit cards. The terms of a credit card bill is a lot worse than a 3.75 fixed loan with payments not due for 12 months.
Right. Much worse. Much worse. Okay.
And there's no prepayment penalty whatsoever, So if they decided my business is not going to make it, I'm going to sell off this truck and I'm going to pay off that SBA loan, they've paid very little interest, if any. It all depends on how much they actually accept from us. And even it goes so far as to say, even if they sign the agreement, the loan agreement for a loan, we say we've approved them for $100,000, and they get paperwork and they sign it, they control if they take a disbursement. So it's like a credit line. It's like a credit line that they may never use, in a sense.
Oh, interesting.
But we want them to have cash flow now so they stay in business and pay their employees. And that's a whole other aspect of the other program, that the payment protection program. Those are forgivable loans. So everybody's scared right now. I grew up in a family business. I had a grocery store. I was partners with my parents in the mountains of Santa Cruz. We had a supermarket, a restaurant. I've been involved in small business. I know what 24/7 work is all about and making a payroll. The fact of the matter is, where are you going to be if you don't have some cash to pay your bills? If you don't take action, you're polarized by fear and uncertainty, you're not going to make it. Yeah. I hate to say it frankly that way, but that's my personal viewpoint. This is a federal program that helps people survive a difficult recovery period. Again, it's a no-lose situation as far as applying, that's for sure. And as far as how much money they decide to take. And then the last thing I'll mention to you that you're well aware of is our resource partners that SBA helps work with, the small business development centers throughout the area, the SCORE chapters, the Women's Business Center in bigger cities, the Veterans Business Outreach Centers. Those are paid employees, experts about planning businesses, adjusting to a new environment. Those are free services that SBA partially pays for. They're also grant money that helps them. They're generally affiliated with some colleges many times, or chambers. And those business consultants are part of the rescue plan to help businesses make difficult decisions in this environment. Of course, I know you as a chamber CEO are getting information out, and you're helping advise your members what steps to take. So this is a very simple thing to start somewhere. And I do know from experience of 12, 15 years of disasters, when somebody takes some action, they start feeling like they have a sense of control in a very difficult environment, whether it's a natural disaster or this kind of crazy, unique pandemic situation. If you feel totally out of control and you get polarized with fear, you're never going to feel like you're accomplishing anything until you start taking some baby steps forward.
That's such truth. That's such truth. And going back to the relationship with the SBA and the SBDC, for those of you watching, I'm putting the link below, or not the link, but the contact info for Trudy Lackey, who is our local consultant, and also Nate McBride. And they both have been, just so you know, Garth, we did an interview with them too, and they've been incredibly supportive and made themselves available for people with questions, even just on the application. So look for their information here below. So let me ask you a couple questions. What if you are not an essential business, meaning that you've been forced to close your doors? And I'm thinking right now, for example, gyms, health and fitness centers, music training studios, people that have not been able to keep their doors open. Do they qualify for the EIDL loan to continue payroll even if they don't have employees that are working?
Well, I would have to say, as far as the new CARES Act and my limited knowledge of that and what you're going to talk about with Carrie, the Payment Protection Act, Payroll Protection Act that was part of that and launching today, I would suggest all of your small businesses pursue that. And the only thing I do know is that sole proprietors and independent contractors won't be able to pursue that for another, I think it's a week period of time. I'm not sure the exact date. I would get, those folks should get informed. But what the goal of that program is, the basic goal, and that's all I know about it, is that they can rehire people they've laid off, pay them, and have the money the money that they're loaned, in effect. It's a forgivable program as long as people pay for the lease. There's certain things they can pay with that money. And once they do that, the goal is, by the federal government, as you know, and SBA being involved with that, is to keep these businesses prepared to reopen as soon as we all get the green light. And so between the two programs, they might get an EIDL loan advance up to $10,000. They may get a loan to pay some of their fixed working capital costs that aren't covered by the payroll protection program. So they should pursue both. I recommend they do it right now. Both of them, as soon as they can, whether they're a business or a sole proprietor, as soon as that program is available as well, pursue that as well, because this is an unprecedented situation. The government, our government, and the administration and the Treasury and the Federal Reserve and SBA all coming together as a whole government approach is trying to make small businesses survive this difficult time.
Yeah.
And it's kind of not a great direct answer for you, but this is all being figured out as we go here.
Sure. No, I think more than ever that explanation is accepted, because business owners feel the same. We're all kind of experiencing it as we go. Now, let me ask you, with the EIDL versus the Paycheck Protection Program, which I know Carrie is going to spend some time talking about it, but since you just mentioned the intention to file for both, you recommend people file for both. If with the Paycheck Protection Plan, looking at the notes, you have to use, in order for it to be forgivable, you have to use at least 75% of it towards payroll. So overhead payroll from your employees. And it can be no more than 25% of mortgage, rent, and utilities. Now, with the EIDL advance loan, what are the stipulations on that, and how can they be used? Because I think I saw something about using it for payroll as well, but how is that the case? Because if we're filing for both, then am I able to use the EIDL advance for things outside of payroll, since and it still potentially be forgiven because I'm filing?
Yeah, let me go ahead and try to address that from the standpoint of the economic injury disaster loan. The payroll, you know more about the PPP program than I do, what you just said. And I'm not going to even try to compare the two. What I can tell you with the economic injury disaster loan, those are for expenses that you have, whether they're buying, if your business is open, to buy inventory, replacement inventory, to pay for bills, to keep, it's working capital cash flow money that you cannot otherwise handle on your own from the business's resources because of this pandemic outbreak and the closures and all the economic impact. So we don't check every dollar. It's a little bit less specific than this new program that's just been created. The EIDL plan is to pay for your ongoing working capital needs of the business. It could be to pay a lease payment. It could be to pay a PG&E bill. It could be able to pay the payroll you owe, your payroll taxes, whatever the expenses are of the business, these funds can be used for. And some of the things may be deferred and you may not have to pay them because of other actions by the government, but whatever the working capital needs are of the business due to this pandemic, that's what these funds from the economic injury disaster loan are for.
Gotcha. You know, I had a couple of people reach out to me, and this is something that's really hard for them because there's a lot of people that feel like it's not worth applying because they feel like they don't qualify. And whether it's...
Well, why wouldn't they qualify?
Well, and so this is what I would love for you to clarify. So there's concerns that because they've have a lot of credit card debt and their credit score is not where they want it to be. They have concerns because of being a new business and not having historic information to leverage for, you know, the financials required for the EIDL advance and regular EIDL loans. There's a number of things there, and specifically, I wanted to ask that for also the self-employed, because there's quite a few self-employed independent contractors, gig workers, sole proprietors. I'm trying to think of all the words that I would use here, but that are finding themselves now in a spot where everything is canceled, right? And trying to figure out if they would actually even qualify for something like this. What are the documents that are needed, and what would be the determining factor based on all of those kind of hiccups that someone feels would prevent them from getting an EIDL loan? Can you talk to those points?
Well, Morgan, I'm going to make this really simple for you. Okay. I'm going to make it simple for your small business members. If they don't apply, they don't qualify. If they apply, they may qualify. There's no documents. This new streamlined application is 4 pages of clicking through that will take them 15 minutes to submit. If they don't want the money, they don't have to take it. If they don't apply, they will 100% not be eligible because they haven't applied. Now, if they're a small business owner that has challenged credit and they were very extended previously, I would say, if I was talking about a regular normal disaster, I would say that there might be an issue where they wouldn't be approved for the loan because they've shown that they don't pay their debts currently. If they don't have, I'll give you some specifics. If they are behind in a federal obligation like child support, they may not qualify. If they never file taxes, because that's a federal obligation, they may not qualify. But if they don't apply, and it takes 15 minutes on this streamlined application to potentially get a up to $10,000 advance with no obligation to repay that and be considered for additional loan funds, even if they're denied for the loan, they may still get the advance of up to $10,000, depending on how many employees they have. So one thing that I do for the last 15 years on all these disasters is I don't make a determination out in the field on their eligibility. They submit the application. The credit guidelines have been loosened because we want money to get out on the street to people. So if they're polarized with fear or uncertainty whether they're going to get the money, they're not going to get the money because they haven't applied. I guarantee that 100%. If they don't apply, they will not get the money. So it really is a disservice to small business owners to try to gauge what their personal circumstances are without having any of the details. They should submit the loan application and they'll find out hopefully very quickly.
Yeah. Well, thank you for making that pretty simple.
I hope that makes sense, because I know it's kind of like an answer, non-answer, but
Yeah.
the truth of the matter is I've been doing this a long time in disaster circumstances, and people are a little bit afraid of the government and the bureaucracy. This is an unprecedented situation. We are mandated to get money to the small business communities and nonprofits throughout this nation. And I think they should take a leap of faith in that the government is trying to help them. Disappointment of not being approved or not getting the money they need could be a possibility, but I really highly, on a personal level, recommend they try to move forward. And the more questions they ask and the more time they wait, more other people are putting applications in front of them.
Yeah. That's great advice. Well, let me ask you another question here. So I've had a couple people let me know, hey, I filed. In fact, I even had someone this morning saying I filed for the PPP and the EIDL loan, so the EIDL advance loan. What is the current turnaround? Because I haven't been hearing yet of when funds are actually received, and I'm curious if you guys have like a approximate timeline right now.
I don't, because we're generally we've approved many loans already. We're approving them every day, every hour.
Okay.
So because of the size of this incredible catastrophic situation that we're all in, I'm not even going to try to give you a parameter. Generally, we would say 2 to 3 weeks. We're approving loans as we speak. With the uncertainty of the amount of influx of applications and things, I really couldn't be fair to you to say it's going to be this amount of time. We just don't have the ability to track that way. We are, the easier, the more complete the application with this new streamlined process, we're moving as quickly as we can. And really anything beyond that would be just a speculation.
Yeah. And I think what's important to understand too is that you're a conduit, and you're one piece of the puzzle. That there's also something on the back end from legislation, and also from the lenders themselves, and all the way until you receive it in your account. So there's a number of factors there, but it sounds like. Go ahead.
Yeah. What I can tell you is, so let's say someone today submits this 15-minute, 4-page streamlined application. Once we're taking those applications on a first-come, first-served basis, we're ramping up our loan officers. As soon as somebody gets assigned their file, they review it very quickly. We pull, part of the thing is we do pull some credit information because we have the ability to do that. It's not accounted against their credit score when the federal organization pulls that information. And we can get an approval to them very quickly, assuming that it's a uncomplicated small business with 4 employees, a cafe, a restaurant, or this or that, a retail store, whatever it may be, even though they may not be even though they may not be operating right now, because we looked at what they were doing before, we can potentially approve them for some cash flow. And then once approved, they would be sent overnight, typically closing documents to sign, just to the basic agreement. And then within 5 days, we could get them an initial disbursement once it gets to that point. So it can be very quick, and people have gotten money already. And this EIDL program, different than the PPP program, which was recently just being created over the weekend, this economic injury disaster loan program is something we've been doing for years and years and years. So money is getting dispersed as we speak. So every moment people wait to put in their application, there may be a few thousand applications going in ahead of them.
Yeah. Yep. Understood. Well, thank you so much for sharing all that. Is there anything else that you want Calaveras County business owners to know right now before we sign off here?
No, and again, we have our customer service center that can look up applications as they go in. We do recommend that people try to do submit their information and keep close contact with any communication that SBA may send them for some question or information we may need. Respond as quickly as possible. Try to be a good partner on the other side of getting these applications approved. And if they do, over time, if they're uncertain about the closing documents or information they receive, they can call our 800 number, 800-659-2955. And hopefully the wait times will be decreasing over the next days as we bring on more staff and we get the initial rush of maybe start smoothing out here. But we really want to try to help people the best we can. I know it's a difficult time, and I'm trying, as you can imagine here, or you can hear, I think, I'm trying to give you the most straightforward answers I can in a situation that is just uncharted territory for all of us.
Yeah. Yeah. What was that 800 number again, Garth?
It's 800-659-2955.
Okay. I'll put that below too in the comments. Thank you so much. We know SBA is just completely inundated, and the fact that you guys have made yourself so available and have been so helpful in disseminating the information to everybody is much appreciated. And I know that you guys are exhaustively working, and so I appreciate that, and I know business owners appreciate that. We're all just kind of like in that what now mode, and so
we're all in this together. That's for sure.
Yeah. Well, Garth, thank you so much. It was such a pleasure getting to talk to you and hearing more from SBA and specifically in the EIDL and EIDL advance loans. That was incredibly helpful. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Morgan, and I appreciate you helping us get the word out. And I wish the best for your members and their families, of course.
Thank you. Take care. Stay well.
Okay, bye-bye. Have a good day.